All right, y'all. I don't know what was in the air the past few days, but I feel as though I've had a mental and spiritual cleansing happen. Like, by the end of the day, I physically felt lighter. Now, after the start of quarantine, after a brief adjustment and some tears, I was ready to tackle all that needed to be done. I had the emotional energy to spare and felt I could provide spaces for people to unwind and unload and just manage my own mental health. But the past 2 weeks, I have not had it. I am talking scraping the bottom of the barrel, looking for my usual ways of recharging, and finding that nothing was bringing me joy. By the first week, with no let up, I was in serious concern for my mental health. I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't really eating for the first week. I mean, my appetite did come back, and I'm talking about the first weeks of protest. And just generally all out of sorts. I mean, you get the gist. A lot of this is incredibly heavy. But there's also some other factors going on too. I mean, perhaps it was nerves, perhaps it was performance anxiety. I did have to do a stage reading in front of a Zoom audience for the first time, and even though I literally had my lines split screened, it was still incredibly anxiety inducing. I mean, it shouldn't have been. I've done plenty of stage readings and table reads to know how it works and all that jazz. And yet it was. And then, this is how busy I've been in keeping myself all occupied. I was scheduled to do a monologue of sorts about a story in my own personal life with no script. Even though I did kind of have a script and I did rehearse it a few times with the teleprompter, this teleprompter, because there's no way I'm just free flowing. But still, there was no way to do the teleprompter while recording, and what if I messed up? I mean, I'm that much of a perfectionist. I'm using a teleprompter, and I recorded or wrote down all my thoughts beforehand so I wouldn't mess them up. I'm ad-libbing a little bit, but I digress. And then on top of all of that, yesterday I had my first laser hair treatment, but that turned out to be a huge mess of anxiety. It was first appointment anxiety coupled with the riots that destroyed his original location at the Target in Buckhead, or near the Target in Buckhead, and then also a huge communication mix-up. Long story short, we got it done, but there was a lot of confusion. There were also other little fires that flared up and just needed to be put out, and I was at my max. Like I was done. Like for the past 2 weeks, nothing seemed to bring me joy, and especially nothing brought me joy yesterday, and to me, it just all seemed to bring me endless anxiety and irritation. Now, I'm going to tell you a little backstory about my anxiety and how much fun it is. Right before my first big poetry reading as part of the Atlanta Queer Literary Festival, I was on the floor in my bedroom at my parents' house, literally in a ball of tears and anxiety. It's just a part of my performance process I've come to accept. Getting on stage or in front of a camera will leave me in tears, especially if I'm not in complete control like this. In questioning why I ever even bothered crawling out of bed. And that's just in good times, not when there's a worldwide pandemic simultaneous with a worldwide revolution and movement. But the Zoom performance on Sunday went amazingly. The recorded monologue-y thingy reading yesterday went amazingly. The first laser hair appointment went as wonderful as it could. I mean, when they start doing those little zaps, you're like, whoa, easy there. And then it keeps going and you kind of settle into it. But then when they stop, you're just like, whoa, got to readjust to that. But this face will get somewhere. And then after all of that, now, my friend Dominic, he's been reminding me for the past week or so about the Black women's space that Queen's Theater was hosting. And I'm kind of heated and hot about it since the first email, because quite honestly, I'm sick of Zoom meetings. Like, I'm just, there's so much anxiety, and you're just like, I'm performing, but I'm also performing, but I'm not performing. Which one am I doing? And plus, I had done my share of interacting with strangers digitally lately, like already twice this week. So I couldn't be on anymore. My anxiety was already sky high, and even though I'd finished all the performance pieces from Sunday and then yesterday and riding that wave of enjoyment, my anxiety was still sky high. Something told me to go. So I did. I signed up 2 hours before it was supposed to start. Now look, I'm telling you, Anne made a healing space. I'm telling you, it was exactly what I needed in the midst of all of this going on. a place to be unapologetically black with other unapologetically black people. And normally I get this fixed through my friends with black as fuck, or going to get my hair done, or other various black centered spaces. But this was a new space, and it was filled with these wonderfully amazing, accepting black women from all across the nation, all in this small digital space, experiencing this communal experience that I really needed. We were all free to talk about anything or nothing at all. And the topic for that meeting was centered around food. And we all shared stories of food, but just like when you're cooking a meal with your mom or whatever, or whomever, there is an intimacy in the finer details. It wasn't just sharing stories of food. We got to know about families, about triumphs, losses, and trying to, what I've been calling it for years, and maybe this is what I'll eventually call my show, but just bearing the lightness of being. I mean, I thought I'd felt amazing and euphoric after recording my monologue and finishing the stage readings, but this space with these women, look, I'm going to digress again, because the night before, last night, Oprah was on doing her special on what's been going on, and normally I'd be excited about it. Like, we got two Atlanta people, Keisha Lance Bottoms and Stacey Abrams, on there being amazing, and then Ava DuVernay doing her thing, and like, it was just a very much needed conversation about what's been going on. However, I had to leave the room. Like, from the moment it started going, my anxiety was just sky high. It has been sky high for the past 2 weeks. I had to leave the room, sit on the back patio. I got me a glass of wine and just sit in the dark to decompress. And not just decompress, but there were just tears coming out of my eyes because I felt trapped. I felt scared, afraid, angry, just this whole range of emotions that sometimes is just hard to kind of encapsulate. But by the end of that Zoom call, I was ready to tell Eddie to turn on Oprah, bring her on. I've got enough mental strength to face reality right now. I don't really know what I'm trying to say, except I still believe strongly in self-care and finding ways to recharge and sharing what recharges me in hopes that it helps someone, or at the very least, it serves as inspiration for someone else's self-care routine. I am cautiously hopeful that this movement will keep momentum, because if you're just joining us, you're in for a marathon, not a sprint, so buckle up. And when people in the movement say to take a minute for self-care and healing, listen and do that. If someone offers a healing space, go, and hopefully I can manage to find and make a healing space at some point digitally. At the very least, find a way to create your own. I know at the beginning of quarantine, I was able to create it amongst my friends with weekly movie nights, and that was incredibly helpful up until everything got ratcheted up a notch. The thing is, there's a lot of darkness out there right now, but I am hopeful meaningful change will happen, and it will happen when we are working at our best and working in the light. Anyways, thanks for indulging me and listening. Until next time, I guess just keep bearing the lightness of being.